Lots of golfers struggle making really good contact on the ball. The biggest tendency is to hit the ground before the ball or thin on top shots. Today we're going to share with you a great way of fixing that, a great way of feeling confident over a shot that you're going to hit ball and turf every time. We all want to see those divots go flying after the ball, of course, and we're going to share with you today the reason why it doesn't happen and how we can work on some great things on the practice area and also concepts to make you feel comfortable, secure, and trust that you're going to achieve that every time on the course. So I thought I'd start with my hula hoop here just to help with the demonstration. So we'll use the yellow bit of tape here on the bottom of the hula hoop to represent the low point in the golf swing. Now, in an ideal world, we want that low point to be after the golf ball with an iron about 4 inches. Now, what I tend to see with a lot of golfers, and I measure all the golfers on track when they come into my studio, is they tend to hit the ground before the ball. If it's on a mat, sometimes the club will bounce and it won't give them that effect of hitting a heavy shot. And if the ball's sat up on a good lie, they won't notice this either. It's only when it starts to get to hard pan or a very bare, tight fairway that they'll start to notice this. Otherwise, it might be just a groove too low in the face or a little bit thin. So their low point would be 1-2 inches behind the golf ball. Now imagine if that was you, your low point was behind the golf ball. What we're looking to do is shift this hula hoop forward. Now quite simply, what did I do then to shift that forward? Well, quite simply, if I put my pressure more towards my lead foot and move laterally, that shifts that low point forward. That's essentially all we're trying to do in the golf swing to ensure that ball and turf contact. Now, the only other thing to consider would be the height of this hula hoop. Obviously, if I stand up, and if my arms are connected to this now and I'm touching the ground, if I stand up, you'll see here I raise my radius of my golf swing off the ground. That means I can still be hitting down, I can still have the low point after the golf ball, but it means I won't hit the ground and make that bruising or that divot that I'm looking for after the ball. So in order to get that low point, that ball and turf in the right location, I'm looking to shift it forward and make sure I get the radius in the right area also. So how do we achieve that in the easiest way? I'm going to focus today mostly on what we do with our body to help this and allow our arms and wrists and hands and club head to transport itself to that later zone. But we're going to really focus on the lateral movement and how we get the lateral bump in our golf swing to get that contact. So for sure, great idea is to get a hula hoop or some kind of circular object like I just did then and practice shifting it forward and feel what you did to shift that low point forward. I think that's a really good idea just to give you some conceptual ideas of what you need to do. Now, what we're looking to do is when we swing down is feel that this lead hip moves on top of the outside of the lead ankle by the time the club gets to about parallel to the ground. And then we're looking for the lead leg to extend as we rotate through the golf ball. But we're looking for this kind of lateral squat. Now think about what's happening there. My belly button and my fly of my trousers are moving forward past this alignment rod on the ground, which is why I've got it there to show you that. Then in the finish, I'm trying to feel like I can get the heel of my tailbone past that line on the ground. Now if I do that, I'm shifting my pressure and my weight through the golf ball correctly. Now what I don't want to do whilst I do that is get my head going forward a long way. If my head goes forward a long way, this won't want to go forward. We want the lower half to go forward and the upper half to kind of rotate and extend. So my head will finish just probably past that rod in the finish position if we can. Now that relies some back extension, so some of us might not feel so comfortable doing that. So again, we work with what you've got and we add and gain little moves on the journey. And here's that journey. So I'm going to also share with you a couple other ways of feeling we get this low point later. But initially, let's just try and feel. We would do that rehearsal. I'm trying to get my right hip on top of that rod while that club is parallel to the ground and then finish past that rod. That's the initial first project. Now, if it's hard with a full swing, start with small swings and build up. There is nothing wrong with that. Let's really focus on trying to get that body moving as we want. So really tried hard to shift my weight and pressure there. Definitely unusual and definitely difficult to do if you don't normally move laterally that much. The second way of feeling this is going to do what I call a step and hit drill, which is really going to make you move that lead hip and pressure more towards target. Again, at impact, we're looking to get about 80% of your pressure on the lead side when we make that contact with the ball. So in the backswing, it's going to shift and it's going to shift back. So we're making sure very much this kind of, the start of this lateral move starts to happen when the arms are about 3/4 way back. This is when the pressure is mostly on the right side. As the arms then go to the top, the weight starts to load back into the lead side to allow us to shift this pressure and low point after the ball. So this step and hit drill, quite simply, is take a narrow stance about a club head width apart, set up behind the golf ball. So when I step out, that ball position now is back into the center of the stance where it would be normally. And what we're going to do is that our arms get to about halfway back. So I'm going to step and load. And we're not thinking about any rotation here, just pure lateral moves. So definitely felt I made quite an extreme move to go forward then. Perhaps the only criticism would be I probably didn't keep my head back enough, but I definitely felt my lower half was more dynamic and moving more forward and moving a bit earlier than I would do normally. So hopefully you'll get that feeling from it too. Stay tuned to the last tip. Tip 3, and this is really using an external prop. I've got the Wedge Pro wedge here on the ground to help me shift my weight and club more forward. Otherwise, I'm going to want to hit this. So it's really just kind of a constraint to make sure that if I would stay on my back foot as such, I'm going to want to hit that. So it's really about me feeling I've got to throw that weight forward. So you'd line this up probably close to 2 club head widths behind the golf ball. And then we're going to focus on trying to make contact with the ball. Again, small swings first is a good start and build that up to full swings. And then make sure you stay tuned to watch how we can take this to the golf course in a minute as well. So let's just try that with the Wedge Pro. And yeah, definitely probably the one I found the easiest to do out of these drills, and definitely gave me that kind of contact I'm looking for, which was ball first, then a little sampling of ground. Maybe I want a bit more divot. And the last thing just to consider, as we talked earlier, if I'm not hitting the ground but I'm moving everything forward, we've got to try and then manage our tilts, get that chest more to the ground. Otherwise, you'll find that that radius is a little high off the ground, and that's possibly why we won't get the divot we want in the right location. Let's cover the golf course process. So you find yourself in the golf course and you're thinking, okay, I've got to shift my low point, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Where's my wedge to use that external prop? They're not going to be there. What I'd like you to do is find a spot behind the golf ball, and potentially you could do 2 things. One could be a little step and hit practice swing. Second thing could be you just make a swing and really feel that you're going to really focus on trying to get those hips laterally forward, post through the ball like so. And as we're doing it, try and feel that we're going to just brush that ground. Doesn't have to be a full swing, it can be a mini swing. And then once we've got that feeling, step into the rest of our process routine, which would be very much visualizing the shot that we want, lining up behind the ball, picking a spot in front of the ball to aim at, just in front, taking that club, getting yourself into a position comfortable. This time you can make a little waggle, and as you make the waggle, really shift that weight pressure, feel that foot load, feel that foot roll, and then when you go to the golf ball, nice backswing, and then just shift that weight. And without doubt, my most solid shot of all those exercises. And that was the one that felt the freest. And we definitely want you on the golf course to feel free. Now guys, if you haven't already subscribed, only about 20% of you do, please follow or subscribe and hit the notifications button. I really appreciate if you can do that. Otherwise, hope you've enjoyed this tip, and I'll see you back here real soon.